It's a really good social satire for a world that is both fascinated by and horrified by women's bodies.
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers. And now, here are Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Dal, before we even get into the episode, we just learned some terribly exciting news. And do you want to be the one to tell it?
No,
because I mean, you're the most excited for it.
You can do it.
Okay. I don't want to step on your toes. I don't want to take this excitement away from you. And I'm sure the listener will be able to hear how excited you are when I mention this. There's a new coffee shop opening across from Challengers. It's a dark matter shop called Electric Mud.
Cool.
Did you hear that?
That means there's now 4 places you can get coffee on the intersection of Milwaukee and Western.
Well, I mean,
Yay.
The number stays the same.
Yay.
Because Hero's gone.
Yay.
I didn't know if there was another one.
I think it's actually 5 because I think Subway also serves coffee, I think, in the morning.
Do they?
I think they
Okay.
do.
I wonder who gets coffee at Subway.
Whoever's getting breakfast at Subway.
I guess.
You know? It's not really worth crossing the street.
Yeah.
Or I guess maybe it is for some people. Maybe there are folks who are like, I've got to get my McMuffin at McDonald's, but my coffee at Starbucks or whatever. Like, I don't know, whatever. People are weird with coffee. I don't understand it.
So does that mean we're not going ahead with our coffee license?
You can do whatever you like, Patrick.
But you don't like the smell of coffee.
I really don't.
The taste, though, you're okay with that?
I don't like that either. Nor the culture around it. Just the whole thing. It's just one of those ubiquitous things that it means nothing to me, and the fact that it's so prevalent in American culture. The fact that Dunkin Donuts is a beverage first company now. They're getting rid of donuts in their name because they're a place where you get coffee and coffee drinks and other stuff.
And you said they're putting their donuts out on the floor now?
Well, the thing I read was that they're going to be doing redesigns of all of their locations. Maybe not all at once, but slowly rolling stuff out. And one of their concepts is a very hip, instead of the donuts being on these trays behind the counter, they'll be in like glass cases. Oh. You can see them that way.
Okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
it all sounds useless to me, but whatever.
I am a frequent Dunkin' patron, and I don't usually have any trouble seeing the donuts.
Yeah, man, the proximity of the donuts was never a problem for me.
I was going to say, to be fair, I don't get donuts there as often as I get other things, but I think you get donuts pretty regularly.
I do. I mean,
twice a week?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I usually have a Dunkin' Donut for breakfast Monday morning, Tuesday morning, and Thursday morning.
I think my glasses are coming loose.
It's terrible.
Look at that. Look at that.
Gosh.
I need you to see all of the comics that are still on the shelves this week. Hey, as we are recording, it is... What's that city? Baltimore. Baltimore Comic-Con is happening right now.
Is it really?
So, as I expect, there will be no major news coming from that because New York is next weekend.
Yeah, it's next weekend.
And that's when everything's going to come out. Maybe even the name of the Avengers movie.
Sure, why not?
I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Sure.
I don't know for sure.
I suppose anything's possible.
Our bill for the next week is very large, but that's due to the occasional diamond double up of reorders, so we're paying for 2 in 1 week. But normally a bill this large that comes near a convention is everybody getting their books out for San Diego. And this time it's just funny that it lines up with New York.
Yeah.
But not... I mean, I don't think it's that way for everybody.
No, I mean, there's certainly not a lot of new stuff that we're getting in this week that we're getting in large quantities. If anything, it was this past week with Heroes in Crisis and Maneaters that was bigger for us than the title and Doomsday Clock. And I'm sure there was other stuff that shipped this week that I'm forgetting about. But yeah, this next week, there's some interesting stuff, but nothing that we're getting huge quantities of.
It'll be less boxes in the car, that is for sure.
That'll be nice.
Dal, I initially started talking to you before this recording about not wanting to be a broken record. for a different subject altogether, but I don't know how much we want to be broken records to our podcast from like 3 weeks ago. However, similar events have occurred that we talked about at length. There you go. Now you got it.
Got it.
Should we just go back and cut and paste that episode?
Yeah, sure.
July 2014. They shattered the glass to get in, and all they took was the drawer out of our register. Early September 2018. Somebody had kicked in, smashed in, broken our front glass door, and come in and stole all the startup cash we have in the store. I didn't ask you how much you want to talk about this. Shall we bring it up?
Briefly. We can talk about it briefly because it's the same topic and it's barely worth talking about again because the details have not changed.
No, they haven't. So we got broken into again.
Second time in September.
Shattered the front door again, came in through the broken glass and exited through the broken glass. Never broke the contact of the door, so that alarm didn't go off. And our newly replaced motion detector didn't go off. Now, if you recall, the last time we had an issue with our alarm company where they had to send somebody out and overhaul the system to find out that motion detector had gone bad and replace all the batteries. So this time it was in 100% working order, and it still didn't go off.
Nope.
Just didn't go off.
Nope.
They have no explanation.
Nope.
And
no solution for it either.
Yeah, no solution either. So we've talked to other alarm companies and gotten quotes on a completely different system and different. When I say different, I mean a different company, but also differences in the system. And they had a lot of suggestions, which were great, but also expensive. Mm-hmm. So we may not do a lot of that. But we also have we've taken other precautions, and all this is just spending more and more money that we just spent. Like we had to replace a $700 door. Again.
It was a very expensive September.
And that's just the glass. The door frame itself has taken a beating both of these times and has visible damage and wear to it, but that's not a thing we can worry about at the moment, so long as people can still get in. So because the door doesn't close all the way unless you force it, I just let it stay open a couple inches.
Sure.
But whenever I do that, during the day it'll just like close on its own, and each time it freaks you out.
Weird.
Ghosts, just like the Halloween episode of Buffy season 2 I watched this morning when Willow was a ghost.
Uh-oh.
That's right.
Is that the one where everyone turned into their costumes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't recall ever seeing that one before.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Because they mention it on future Halloween episodes. There's the season 4 one. I think it's season 4 because I think it's a college party.
Yeah.
And they're all dressed up in specific costumes so that if they turn into their costumes again, they have, like, powers and abilities.
Yeah, like, I think Xander was, like, James Bond or something.
Yeah, and the joke was, like, you're probably just going to end up as, like, a maitre d' or something.
Yeah. But then, Anya was a bunny, or was that a different Halloween?
I want to say that was season 4.
Okay.
I think. I could be wrong.
That's what you said. But I don't remember how
I don't
chubby they were with Anya by then.
Yeah, I don't know how many
Halloween episodes there were.
Yeah, they didn't necessarily do one every year, I don't think.
Right. Well, they definitely didn't do one the first season, but that wasn't a full season. There was a club member who was in today wearing a Buffy t-shirt, so I'd said, hey, I'm doing a rewatch right now, slowly, but I'm getting through it. And he had just done one and was commenting how well it holds up.
That's good.
And how he's not excited for the reboot, or the relaunch, I guess.
The TV reboot? Or the comic relaunch?
The TV.
Okay.
To which I said, but let it be. I mean, it's not for us anymore.
Yeah, it can be for kids nowadays.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, we're old and not cool. And I go, buddy, I've owned a comic store for a long time. I've never been cool. Definitely haven't been. So anyway, the break-in occurred. Most likely the exact same people. Most likely still on the prowl, I guess.
Yeah, I almost everyone we talked to in a professional capacity for this basically said, probably going to happen again.
Yeah.
But luckily we've taken precautions so that should it happen again, their take will be basically zero.
Yeah.
And then we hopefully won't have to deal with this from the same person again.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, we can't stop them from
trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll learn that it's not worth their time anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing everything we can to make that clear with new systems and new services and some new signage. But yeah, it may be a thing where it costs us another $800.
Yep.
It may happen again.
The annoying part this time was that it was discovered on Monday morning when Dal got to the store to work for the day.
Yeah.
I mean, at least when it happened that Friday a few weeks ago, it was...
the police caught it.
Yeah, and so I had a couple of hours before we opened to clean up and do stuff.
This was 10:53 a.m. on a Monday going, oh, I guess I'm not eating breakfast right now because I've got to clean up broken glass.
Yeah.
And call the glass company to replace the glass in the door and fix the register that's been completely torn apart.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
The police came by today to talk about stuff.
Okay. I'd called the non-emergency number of the police, and when I was explaining to the woman on the phone kind of the process, I'd said, yeah, I came in and I saw all this damage, and she's like, you went in, you didn't call the police? I'm like, I came in the back door, and it was when I got to the front to turn off the alarm that I realized that we'd been broken into. I was already in the building when it happened. I didn't, see the broken glass and then go inside. I was already inside when I saw the broken glass.
However... if you saw the broken glass, you'd still go inside.
I mean, I was already in. I wasn't like...
No, but I mean, if let's say you were coming in through the front or something.
I mean, I probably would because I've seen it happen before.
Yeah.
I wouldn't assume that, they're still on the premises.
Yeah, exactly.
If it was 3 a.m, maybe. But even then, I'd probably still assume, they already came and went. But yeah, it was her shock that I would go in without, having the police secure the facility. It's
I mean...
lady, this has happened a bunch.
If you were worried about it being an emergency, you wouldn't have called 311.
Right, well, that's true. Well, again, this wasn't reporting an active incident so much as,
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's just a matter of, I guess, being jaded by the frequency. Now, to be fair, being broken into 6 times in 10.5 years isn't necessarily a ton, but it's still way more than you want it to be.
Well, 2 in a month is a ton.
Yeah, it is.
That's the problem.
Having a 4-year gap in between the last time.
Right, we talked about it a few weeks ago. If it's every 4 years, it's a nuisance, but it's, survivable. It doesn't cost us that much money over 4 years. But if it's twice a month, that's a lot of money out the door.
Yeah.
In every sense. It's very difficult to stay in business if you're getting broken into and nearly $1,000 worth of damage occurs every 2 weeks. We're not making that much money that we can absorb that.
We were talking with a different security professional who did a different thing for us. I'm hesitant to go into details on the podcast because I don't want to
So don't.
Give things away,
No.
But he was explaining to me that another client of theirs gets broken into all the time, and they would have what was the number, $11,000 for the damage or $15,000 of merchandise stolen?
I don't remember.
I do remember you going, holy Jesus.
It was a high number.
Yeah, so our issues are mainly the damages, but they have the damages and the merchandise being stolen.
Yeah.
And since they adapted some of the same measures that we have just had installed, the attempts are still there, but the people can't get in.
Sure.
So, I mean, there's still the issues of the attempt, and the attempt is not super favorable.
Mm-hmm.
But he said it was 4, they've tried 4 more times since then.
There's a store over on North Avenue near, between Damon and Ashland. And it's a hip clothing store, so they do hats and shoes and shirts.
Yeah.
Within 3 weeks of being open, they went from these nice glass facades and stuff to at night there is a huge metal grate that comes over it.
Yeah. Hey, I understand that.
Because immediately because of what they were carrying, they were getting broken into immediately.
Our original landlord said that we could not do any exterior security measures because it would ruin the exterior facade, and it would ruin the visual aesthetic that he was going for. And I'm not saying a collapsible gate over the front door isn't a way we would go, but at that point it feels like, don't you have to do that for every exposed space?
Right. Yeah, I mean it's the sort of thing that I wouldn't love doing. It's tacky, but I mean I understand why businesses do it.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. In Chicago, sure. And I mean it's on the one hand it feels like Bucktown is gentrifying in a way where it doesn't feel as necessary, but twice in September we just got broken into, so it's not gentrifying that much.
Nope. It really puts a damper on your desire to not only work, but to own a business.
Yeah, it's a sort of thing where you kind of wish there was some way to make it clear to somebody, look, man, like, I get that you need money. Like, I get that you're in a bad place where you need whatever money, small amount, was in the register. But you keep doing this, you're not going to have a place to rob anymore because we're going to go out of business.
Yeah.
Think about it long term. You break in once a year, you're going to get that money every year from now on. You break in twice in a month, we're out of business. Like, there's nowhere for you to get money now. That's it.
I believe the armed robberies are a mitigating factor to the Boost mobile store going away next to us.
Sure.
Because they were mainly a cash business, and they got held up at gunpoint twice that we were aware of.
Yeah.
And then they switched to a gift card model, which is 100% electronic, and then they closed, a month after that.
Yeah, I mean, there's genuinely businesses in the city that will not open in certain neighborhoods or areas because it's just too high risk. Like, it's almost guaranteed you're going to get robbed or, burgled or whatever. And is it worth opening in that spot knowing that that's going to be the cost of doing business?
Yeah. Always things that you think about a little bit when opening a business, but not...
Think about it more in the city for sure.
Not as in-depth as you think about it when you have to.
I was reading today about a break-in that had occurred in Colorado at a pot dispensary.
Okay.
A group of teens had stolen a van, driven it through the front of the business after hours, stole the glass jars of marijuana that were on display.
Yeah.
Left the van that they stole in the halfway through the front of the store, got in a getaway car with their jars of product. A bystander was trying to get their license plate. The teens threw a bottle at them. The police chased them, but I guess lost them somehow. So they have not an ID on them, but they know it's a group of teens.
Yeah.
The twist is that what they stole was not actually marijuana because the dispensary doesn't keep marijuana on the floor in glass display jars. It was fake. So they are probably smoking oregano. But in the same article, they said that this is like a series of the same sort of robberies in Colorado where they're just driving cars through front of buildings.
God damn. Like, that is a thing that I don't know that we'd recover from.
Well, the good news with that is that would far exceed the threshold of our insurance.
Deductible, yeah.
Deductible.
Definitely.
Like, that, as we talked about a few weeks ago, that's one of the problems with the break-ins is that it's just enough above the deductible where we could get some money back, but by reporting it, our monthly premiums would start to exceed what we got back for reporting it. So it's not a high enough amount of damage to really be worth reporting to our insurance company, but it's still a hit on us.
Yep.
If someone on purpose or by accident drove a car through the front of Challengers, that is 100% worth the deductible because that is tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage.
And the store having to be closed until it's structurally sound.
I mean, it would be interesting to see how much we would need to close.
Right. It wouldn't be our decision is what I'm saying.
Right. But at the same time, I could see that being a thing where we'd be closed for a few days, but not necessarily like a month or whatever. It's not like, a furnace from the top of a building fell through our business. Like, that's the sort of thing where it's going to be a while. That's going to be a while to fix. This is... But that said, I mean, there was a... was it not Samurai, but somebody else in, Nevada, Arizona, somewhere in there, where they had an uninsured motorist plow through the front of their store.
I was going to say, there's at least 2, if not more, stores we know. It was Green Brain for one of them.
Uh-huh. But the one I'm thinking of specifically was in the Southwest, and they went out of business.
Yeah, it was Samurai.
Okay.
Yeah. Uninsured motorist, they don't get any... that means their insurance has to cover that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's possibly insurance agents listening to this saying, that's not how it works.
Yeah. I don't know for sure. I don't know the whole story. I remember reading about it when it occurred years ago. But it is not a thing I did a deep dive on, nor is it something that I have at my fingertips.
It's definitely the kind of situation that makes me cringe every time the phone goes off
Sure.
before I get to work in the morning.
Yeah. Especially like a local number that isn't already in your contacts.
Yeah.
Urgh.
Yeah, definitely. But, you know, that's the price of doing business. And
I
now,
guess.
again, with...
A lot of good things about Chicago.
yeah.
And all the coffee shops.
Since we started on such a positive note, did you want to segue right into how the Transformers card game demo went tonight?
Nobody showed up.
That's why we're doing this tonight, everybody. Because we have time.
I mean, it's pretty much what I expected. I would have been shocked if, like, more than one person would have shown up. If one person would have showed up and been like, all right, this is about right. But 0 is also a number where I'm like, not surprised.
Yeah.
We're not a card game store.
Right.
Well,
And we
don't do events for Magic.
This is a new thing that just came out today.
Yeah.
And we didn't put out flyers or anything like that.
No, because it didn't feel like it would be a good return on investment.
Right.
And maybe that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know? But we stopped doing flyers for things like Magic events back in the day because we do up these flyers and it would be the same people who showed up last month. So it's like, why am I spending even $8 on flyers when that's money I'm not going to make back?
We don't do flyers for Women's Comics Night anymore either because the same people come, and then when new people come, it's from word of mouth or from the Facebook group.
Yeah, and we had by the front door, Sam had done up these quarter sheet things, which I would, if she's got the file, I'd print them out at the store,
Sure.
and just cut them up and put them out
Yeah,
again.
I think they're a good idea. I think people were interested in taking those.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Women's Comics Night, which is on Monday, October 8th, that is the Ghoul Gang version of it. That is the next event we have coming up. And there'll be more stuff after that, but we don't need to get into most of that. I have not followed any online reviews for Heroes in Crisis #1, but I was told today that it is not being received favorably. Do you have any insight to that?
Well, I don't read comics reviews on comic sites because I don't find them very informative.
Sure, but I mean, do any things come up in your RSS feed, like headlines?
I was going to say. The only thing I read was Polygon did a bit on it today, and I think they're only... basically the things they praised it for, I can see a comics fan not being into. The idea of kind of exploring the consequences of death rather than making the death itself the point of the comic. Like, people are killed in Heroes in Crisis #1. Name characters that the comics fans would be familiar with. But it's not like it happens on page 20 and you see them brutally murdered. It's a thing that happens off-panel. We only see the after effects of it.
Yeah.
We only see how it affects Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Booster Gold, Harley Quinn.
It's not about the killing, it's about the having been killed.
Yeah, it's about how you feel afterwards, how that affects you, because that's the whole point of Heroes in Crisis. So to fans who are looking for something more visceral, something more, I want to see how it happened, like, well, you'll get to that, it's a mystery. But also, that's not the point of it. That's not the point of the comic. The comments on the Polygon article were interesting because it was something that is strange to me because I don't experience it a whole lot at Challengers, which is people having a deep and unwavering dislike of Tom King and his work at DC.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all.
Because it's a weird thing where, since Vision... He'd done stuff before Vision, but Vision was really where he took off for Challengers. That was the book that people were like, who is this guy? What has he done? I gotta read everything. And obviously we've not been huge fans of stuff like how The Wedding in the Batman comics was done and promoted. And that definitely cost sales on the book for sure. But Mr. Miracle sells outstanding. And Batman numbers are still incredibly high for a twice monthly DC superhero comic book.
Yeah, and our Batman subscriber numbers have actually gone back up.
Yeah.
Not by a ton, but 6 or 7 from the lowest they'd been in a few years.
Yeah, so we don't see a lot of pushback at Challengers for Tom King's work. We're fans of it personally, and the people who shop at the store support it very well. So it was weird to me to see this sort of it's bad, and if it's not bad now, he'll screw it up. Which was a really weird way of looking at a piece of work that someone hadn't read yet in the comment section. And yeah, it's Heroes in Crisis is not a typical DC event. It's a thing that has definitely a more subtle feel to it, and that's not going to be to everyone's taste. I don't want to say it's more difficult work, but it's something that you're going to have to kind of follow the pace of. It's not trying to, beat you over the head with specific events that are going to shake the foundations of the DC universe forever. It's more like, this is a story that needs to be told in the DC universe, and these are the characters that you're going to follow, and just see where it goes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I enjoyed it.
I thought it's gorgeous.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's the work of Clayman's career so far. So far. I really like the interactions between Booster Gold and Harley Quinn when I didn't think that I would.
Sure.
And if you had been following Booster Gold most recently in Tom King's Batman, I mean, he's at Sanctuary because of that, but it doesn't, like, he's not that, he's not as crazy. Or is he?
Well, it's unclear how long he's been there and where he's at on his recovery. I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see how the story unfolds.
But I like the way it was paced. I like the way the narrative jumps back and forth between different characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was really impressed by the whole thing. And it's one thing for people to not like it, because it's a little more cerebral than your normal superhero book.
It's a little darker. If it wasn't to someone's taste, that's fine. I mean, not everything DC publishes is to my taste, so I assume it's to someone's taste. But the kind of, like, anger about Tom King is a thing where I hadn't seen that before, and I was really a little sad to see it. I didn't feel like that sort of response was warranted.
Agreed. But Heroes in Crisis was a book I was definitely looking forward to.
Yeah.
However, there's another upcoming DC book that's getting a lot of buzz, The New Green Lantern by Grant Morrison and Liam Sharp. Mm-hmm. And they've released some preview pages, and I just thought they were, okay.
I liked what I read.
Yeah, and I mean, that's fine. Like, I like the Hal Jordan character. I started reading Green Lantern as a comic because I was at the Chicago Comic-Con at the Pitt Congress Hotel on Michigan Avenue when I was in high school, and I attended a panel with Len Wein. Len Wein was taking over Green Lantern, and Dave Gibbons was the artist. So that is the new creative team moving forward.
It's a pretty good team.
So I don't know how we ended up in that panel, but hearing what they had planned for it, I'm like, okay. My brother George and I were like, yeah, we're gonna try this book out. And he was at Ferris Aircraft, and he was on Earth, and even though he is a cosmic space cop, I've always preferred the Green Lantern stories that are set on Earth. I don't necessarily go in for all of the far-out space sectors and things. There's not as much in it to grab me, but I've never been that much of a sci-fi guy.
Okay.
And even you, with Kyle Rayner as your Green Lantern...
He was my guy.
Didn't most of his stuff take place on Earth?
Yeah, one of the things I'm excited about for the Grant Morrison run on Green Lantern is that it seems like it's getting away from the Green Lantern mythology, so to speak. A lot of stuff since Jeff Johns took over and since Jeff Johns has left has been about the spectrum of lanterns and all of the different cores and all that sort of stuff. And I just find that really tiresome, and it has not done it for me for a while. So a book that is explicitly about Hal Jordan as the Green Lantern, and he's going and he's solving space cases, is a good, for me, an antidote to where the franchise has been for the last 7-8 years.
I mean, well, first of all, we have Scott Snyder, who's doing all of that new mythology with the different lantern colors and the different
speed forces
and things, the skill force and whatnot.
Yeah, all of that stuff.
But the preview they showed of Green Lantern #1 is him encountering another Green Lantern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, but I think what they're doing specifically in the beginning is a very, like, how he found Abin Sur. Like, I think that's what that's supposed to echo.
Oh, I did not get that. But I'll be honest, I didn't, like, read it. I flipped through it.
I mean, depending on where that lands in the issue, that's how it looked to me, was a very, like, Hal Jordan going into a spacecraft. There was a dying alien there basically saying, like, avenge me, and him powering up the ring and going off to do that. And I thought that felt very evocative of the Hal Jordan origin story.
Well, I'm sure that's probably what it was supposed to be. But I'm not a fan of his art.
Yeah,
That's
Liam
a
Sharp,
make or break thing for me.
Liam Sharp isn't my guy necessarily. That's not someone who I necessarily look forward to seeing on a book, but I liked what I saw on Green Lantern. It worked pretty well for me, more than maybe it did on Wonder Woman, and
Or
certainly more than
Brave
Brave
and
and
the
the
Bold.
Bold.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, that Brave and the Bold, the problem was not the art on that.
True.
No.
Maneater's #1 also came out this week, and I like it. I talked about it before. I mean, we got a preview of every page, front cover, back cover, all the bonus material, but it's still a good-looking book, and I think it's doing all right for us.
Yeah.
We had high hopes for it, but I've been able to hand sell a couple today.
That's good.
I keep forgetting to wear my Maneater's ring, which is
And they sent that to you, everything.
great selling point for it, and I'm the jerk who forgets it. But those two books were two books those two books being Heroes in Crisis and Maneaters were two books I was really looking forward to, and they come out on the same day, and it's almost like an embarrassment of riches.
Almost.
So we dusted off the classic Challenger's money back guarantee for Maneater's #1. But I did have some people look at Heroes in Crisis and say, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Let me tell you." And then when they put it back, I'm like, "Oh, I feel like it's a fault in the way I explain it."
So here's my pitch for Heroes in Crisis #1.
Yeah.
Sanctuary is the place where the heroes of the DC Universe go when they need emotional help living as superheroes in the DC Universe. Until one day, a series of murders occurs at Sanctuary, and Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman have to investigate to find the killer before it's too late. The top two suspects, Booster Gold and Harley Quinn.
Okay.
That's it. That's my pitch.
I didn't know if I was expecting this meets this.
No.
Plus this.
No. My Maneater's pitch is it's a really good social satire for a world that is both fascinated by and horrified by women's bodies. It is for a world where a group of men will get together in a room and write laws regulating women's health.
Oh, so total fiction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dal, you've recently gone through the December previews and made up a sell sheet for it and sent emails to club members. I have looked through the back half of previews like I normally do, but I always skip the Marvel DC Image front half of the book.
Okay.
Are there standouts for you for the December previews?
I'm trying to remember now.
I know that I'm just like when somebody last week we were at a different store and a guy working there is like, "What did you like from this week?" And I had to look around like, "Where's your new release list?" I don't remember what this week is.
I gotta look at the wall.
I don't know what's new.
I think the three things that I called out in the email that went out to subscribers in no particular order were Kelly Sue DeConnick taking over Aquaman. I think it's definitely something that's going to be worth checking out. She hasn't done corporate superhero stuff since she left Captain Marvel, I think. So her return to that sort of storytelling will be really interesting to see. I'll be mostly curious to find out if her Bitch Planet and Pretty Deadly audience follows her to a DC superhero comic.
Kelly Sue said that she has no visual aesthetic at all when she writes. She doesn't see it.
Like, she doesn't need an artist. She just kind of has her thing, and then they put an artist on it.
Well, like, she doesn't visualize what her story is going to be.
Okay.
She hears it in the form of soundtracks and music.
Okay.
So she can describe each of her things, like a specific style of music. Mm-hmm. For example, I think it was Pretty Deadly was like a Sergio Leone Western soundtrack.
Sure.
Aquaman, Led Zeppelin.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not a big Aquaman person. I've read a few Aquaman stories over the years that have worked for me. I'll give this one a try for sure. The other thing that we called out, I think...
I'm sorry, real quickly, just one last thing about Aquaman.
Sure.
I was on board for all of it, except now they're using that same storyline for Nightwing.
Yeah, the amnesiac hero who finds himself through this new adventure is a very writer's first story kind of a thing. I know I've read more than one. I can't think of specific ones, but I'm sure people listening to this can probably think of a few. But I know I've read other stories where like someone's first thing is so-and-so finds himself in a strange new world and, you know, where they've never been a hero, but then they find out that they're secretly X, Y, and Z.
What I did like about Kelly Sue's pitch is that it's not just Aquaman, it's every mythological hero of the deep. Mm-hmm. It's all different myths and religions and archetypes. Like it's all... So, you know, it's not just Aquaman, it's...
Sure.
Neptune and Poseidon and like all of these different like Hindu water gods and whatnot.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. The other things were Salad and Ahmed and I can't remember who are taking over. Javier Garron, I think, are taking over Miles Morales. They're going to be the new Miles Morales Spider-Man team.
Were you a little surprised that it kept the name?
Very surprised. I thought for sure they would pivot away from him being Spider-Man in favor of a different Spider name a la Ghost Spider.
Yeah.
But nope, Spider-Man. Okay. I guess it doesn't hurt that he's called Spider-Man in the new Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah, there's that.
Well, Spider-Gwen is not called Spider-Gwen or Spider-Woman. I think she's just called Ghost Spider because that's what she's called in the Marvel Rising cartoon. Like, if he had been called something else in a transmedia property, like, then they'd have to call him that in the Marvel comic. But because they're sticking to Spider-Man, he's going to be Spider-Man in the comics. I've liked a bunch of Salad and Ahmed things, but not everything. I really like Black Bolt. I liked his Amazing Spider-Man annual.
I liked Abbott.
I liked Abbott. I did not like Exiles. My fear is that this is going to be more Exiles than Black Bolt, but I guess we'll find out in a few months. But I think the team is good. I like that artist a lot. I think it's going to be worth reading, and it's certainly a team that makes me feel like the character's in good hands. And the final thing I think that we were calling out was Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Hans on Die, their new goth Jumanji comic book.
Yeah, I hadn't really read anything about it, but I heard you talking about it to somebody and explaining it. In basically, it was what happened to the animated D&D cartoon characters.
What would the D&D cartoon cast be like 20 years later after they've come back to the real world?
Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah, especially as clearly they have left unfinished business in D&D world.
Sure.
Like, that's part of the horror element of the series is what happened to them when they were over there and then what brings them back.
I mean, just from the world outside your window and Heroes in Crisis, there's a lot of PTSD issues that people are dealing with in society today. And
sure, and I mean,
that's part of it.
This also has echoes of things like It, where you've got a group of kids who do something, and then the adult versions of them have to deal with the aftermath of that, or the unfinished business of it. Like,
you mean like, oh god, I just forgot the name of the movie, Flatliners.
I don't know that I ever saw Flatliners enough to know that.
Oh, it was a little kid that Kiefer Sutherland was super mean to as kids.
Oh, okay.
That was coming back as an adult.
I see.
After their near-death experiences.
Okay.
I have no idea if that's the same plot for the Ellen Page version, because literally no one saw that.
Yeah, I don't know.
While we were talking about upcoming books, I'm like, oh, I just remembered it. Yeah, all right, so here's the train of thought.
Okay.
Javier Garron doing Miles Morales. Mm-hmm. He did the cover to the most recent issue of Doctor Strange. And I thought, that's a weird thing to have him do just the cover to that. But I can, if they're trying to get people used to him for his new book and get them excited or whatever.
He's a young gun.
Because I don't know that you, but yeah, because he's a Gundam, a Gundam.
He's a Gundam.
He's a Gundam. He's a mobile suit, and anyway, so the current run of Doctor Strange. Mm-hmm. It is it's Mark Waid and Jesus Saez.
Mm-hmm. Good team,
and it's a good team. And when I first heard the premise, I said, "All right." So Doctor Strange, like Jason Aaron, and to an extent Donny Cates, had Doctor Strange dealing with magic being gone on Earth, and how does he still be Sorcerer Supreme? What does he do? And ultimately, magic is back, not to the extent that it was, but there's magic. Well, in this new series, Stephen Strange is cut off from the magic on Earth. He just can't use it.
Yeah, he doesn't know why. It just happens.
So he winds up, thanks to Tony Stark, going into space to find magic in other planets.
Sure.
Like other Earth-like planets, like see what the magical forces are there, and maybe it can recharge you. But a la Planet Hulk, things go terribly wrong, and he doesn't end up where he's supposed to, and his spaceship / Doctor Strange Iron Man armor is ruined, so he's stranded. And it's this soul-searching journey of Doctor Strange finding different forms of magic. And still overcoming his arrogance and still overcoming the things that are at his core. But it's been really fun, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about it was the kind of late in the arc revelation of someone pointing out, like, all of these things you use, these devices. Like, it's always like, you know, the Eye of Agamotto or, you know, the Wand of Watum. Like, that's all someone else's stuff. Like, why don't you have any of your own stuff? So it becomes like Stephen Strange making, like, the something of Stephen Strange.
Yeah.
You know? And I thought it's a very Mark Waid way of looking at the character of, like, here's the thing that's existed as an archetypal Doctor Strange thing for, like, 40 years, and no one's ever gone, wait a second. Like, it's such a little moment of, why does he always just use other people's stuff? Why isn't he making his own stuff?
Yeah, I mean, where did Agamotto get that eye? Where did Watum get that wand?
Those guys made it. So make your own stuff. And I thought that was a very cool addition to the character. I don't know if a lot of people will use it in the future, but I thought it was a fun idea that I can't imagine has been done before. I don't recall it, but maybe
I've
hidden
been
in the depths.
I've read Doctor Strange for a very long time, and I don't recall it either.
Yeah. I thought that was a cool concept.
But also, the end of the most recent issue that sets up the next issue has such a great, not twist, but a reveal.
Yeah.
That I'm like, oh my god, like, this is great. This is the Southern Bastards level of end of arc reveal.
That said, I don't think it's that big a deal because I think it's largely going to be about how we get a Doctor Strange story where he's in space and an Avengers story where he's on the Avengers.
Yeah.
Happening at the same time.
Sure.
Mark Waid seems like the kind of guy who's like, I have to address this. I have to address how both those stories are happening at the same time.
But it was, I mean, the new series was such a departure.
Sure. And
you find out, wait, maybe it's not.
Uh-huh.
And characters that used to be around that aren't anymore, maybe they are.
Yeah.
It was enough to make me go, that's really clever.
Yeah, I was always okay with the idea of him going into space because it never felt like the new status quo for the character.
Sure.
It felt like
an
arc you do, you know?
Yeah, I remember when Action Comics stopped being weekly, I think this was, and or maybe it was before, I actually don't remember. But George Perez was either writing and drawing or just drawing Action Comics, and Superman went into space for a year. Mm-hmm. And he had, like, his little oxygenated belt with a breathing unit and whatnot, and a way he could fly faster. And you knew this was like, all right, at least for the next calendar year of our time, Superman's going to be in space. But he's not going to stay in space.
No.
He's going to come back.
Of course.
I didn't think that this was changing to an extraterrestrial magic book. But I'm glad that I still read it because it was real fun.
Yeah, for sure.
I really liked it. And of course, because I do this every time, I got so involved in talking about that I had another book I wanted to mention that I just kicked myself out of.
Uh-oh.
Did you know that Charles Soule's leaving Daredevil?
Yes.
Like, how long did you know?
I think they announced it last week or so.
Okay. Yeah. Same time. They did it with this story arc that is starting now is his last arc. Like, he's got 4 issues and he's done.
He's been on it for a while, though.
But Daredevil comes out twice a month. So these are he's going to be gone before you know it.
I guess.
And I'm sure New York will be where they tell us who's taking over.
I'd assume a lot of stuff is going to get announced in New York. I assume, because we talked about this before, the October convention that kind of happening in the first week of October means that you can announce stuff that will then be in the solicits at the end of the month for books that are going to be coming out in January. So there's a lot of 2019 stuff that you can announce at New York Comic Con that you really couldn't announce any earlier than that without spoiling stuff. So I still assume that we're going to get a better idea of the X-Men franchise. I think it's definitely going to be something that gets talked about at New York Comic Con. Who's taken over Daredevil, for sure. I don't really know if there's any other stuff. Captain Marvel plans, post-Life of Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
That seems like something you're going to want to have a bigger team for than Margaret Stoll and Carlos Pacheco. I mean, it seems like. So that may be a thing that also gets announced as a new Captain Marvel team for January, February 2019. Movie's coming out first week of March, so I assume they're going to want to have some splashy new series ready to go. Yeah, that's the stuff I think I'm mostly expecting from Marvel. I'm sure there's things that will get announced, though, outside of that. Usually plenty of announcements from Marvel Publishing
and
New York
a
Comic-Con.
lot of stuff that we're not going to want to hear about as well.
Probably.
I think it's interesting that Conan was the cover of the Marvel previews
Yeah.
for a book that's for January, yet everything we're doing now is for December.
Yeah, peculiar.
Yeah.
Seems like kind of a waste of advertising space, but whatever.
Hey, it wouldn't be a current week in comics if we didn't talk about Batman Damned.
Hey, let's talk about that for a hot minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Batman Damned is a 3-issue bi-monthly series from DC's Black Label imprint.
Their first actual original Black Label content.
Yeah, they're retroactively making several series Black Label series, so they'll be doing new printings of collections that will have the Black Label logo on it. So DC had 2 announcements, kind of, about Batman Damned this week. The second announcement was that basically there's delays on issue 2 and issue 3 for Batman the Damned.
So it is no longer bi-monthly.
Yeah, what is it? The second issue is now coming out in December, I think?
It's every 3 months now.
First week of December. And issue 3 is going to be coming out in March.
So what is between bi-monthly and quarterly? No, that is quarterly. Yeah, that is quarterly.
Yeah.
Okay. I keep getting confused whether it's 3 or 4,
Sure.
you know?
It is quarterly, so it's every
it is
3
now
months.
a quarterly book
Yeah.
instead of bi-monthly.
The bigger announcement, the weirder announcement, was that DC currently has no plans to go back to press on Batman Damned #1.
No plans to go back to press on Batman Damned #1.
Yeah, some folks on the beat did a little write-up, and they caution people that no plans at present does not mean they are not doing it. It just means they are not announcing it right now. To that, I would say, if you say on September 26th that you have no plans, I would be shocked if on October 5th you said, oh, we're going back to press on it.
Yeah.
So the most you can have no plans is maybe a month, and at that point you're running the risk of not having issue 1 in stores when issue 2 ships, which
And
feels like a huge... Like, at that point, don't bother.
This book took extra time to print because it's a different format and it's a different paper stock and blah, blah, blah. Like,
Yeah.
the FOC wasn't 3 weeks, right? It was longer than that?
I don't remember, probably. Yeah, I mean, with the spot varnish and with it being oversized and with it being extra pages, it needs a little bit more time. So if you're, again, going to have issue 1 back in stores by the time issue 2 comes out, you would really need to be soliciting orders now-ish, or at least letting retailers know in the next 3 weeks we're going to be asking you for orders. So the thing with not going back to press on it is I literally cannot see an upside to DC doing this. There's no advantage to them not going back to press on it, because it's not like this is going to help copies sell through. It's already sold out everywhere.
Yeah.
That's why retailers are asking for new printing.
Nobody online has been like, hey, I'm stuck with it. Who needs them?
Yeah. It's not going to help you sell
Return of Wolverine.
It's not going to help you sell issue 2 because you're basically capped at what you sold on issue 1. I'm not necessarily going to order more copies of 2 thinking people are going to jump on with issue 2 of a 3-issue series.
Definitely not.
I'm not going to gamble on that. So it's a bad look all the way around. The only thing, and this is a total conspiracy theory, the only thing I can think of is that someone higher up the chain at Warner Brothers was like, I cannot believe you had the idiotic nerve to put Batman's dick in a comic book. We sell Batman lunchboxes. We sell Batman action figures. We sell Batman kids shampoo. You cannot do this, which means even if you're going to take his dick out of it in the future, we're going to pretend this book never happened. You are not allowed to do anything for Batman Damned.
But they're still going to publish 2 and 3.
I guess. So I don't know. It just feels like someone higher up the chain was like, no reprints. We don't want any more copies of this thing out there, dick or no dick.
Do you think that will drive sales of the collection, assuming there is a collection? There has to be a collection.
DC's already said when there's a collection,
it'll be censored.
Yeah, it's not going to have his dick in it. So, I mean, I can't imagine people are going to care more, but certainly people who can't find issue 1 and want to read the story, which is a market that exists. This thing wasn't all about seeing Batman's dick. There were people who were legitimately excited about reading the new Brian Azzarello, Lee Bermejo Batman story, and now they can't. I mean, I guess they can digitally. Can't do it in print. So yeah, I don't understand the logic behind not going back, or not planning on going back to press on issue 1 of Batman Damned. It seems like there is, from everything I can tell, there's zero upside to doing it that way. Not only are you losing out on all the money of getting issue 1 back into stores, and stores ordering issue 1 again in quantities to meet demand, but you're missing out on numbers going up for 2 and 3. They're only going to stay the same or go down.
Yeah.
Like, I don't...
Yeah.
It seems like a bad decision. So I'm wondering, is DC as a company that has been publishing comic books for decades, why would you do this? It feels very, very strange to me, and that's what makes me think there's got to be some other pressure on them.
There have to be mitigating reasons we're not privy to.
Yeah, that would cause them to say, we don't want to make any more money right now, thank you.
Speaking of digital comics, I had someone in today who said, do you have any current Iron Fist comics? I'm like, well, he currently doesn't have a series.
Mm-hmm.
They do have an Iron Fist series, but it's digital only, so you can only get it digitally. So it's not that we have. And he goes, okay, well, do you have the digital version? I'm like, oh, bless your heart.
Aw.
I love that. Like, you don't necessarily know what that means,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a thing you still want to buy from us.
Sure.
I thought that was adorable.
It would be cool if they offered us the chance to sell digital codes for those digital series.
Yeah,
That
or
would be neat.
like we looked into years ago, getting the Marvel Unlimited gift cards that they sell.
Yeah.
Could never get anybody to call us back.
Nope.
That is a thing that is very prevalent with us lately, and I can't go into details without talking about stuff that we're doing behind the scenes. But if you recall, last Friday you gave me a couple of numbers to call.
I did.
And I called and left messages and took notes with the people that I left messages for. It's a full week later.
Yep.
Never got a call back.
Nope.
And this is from multiple people from different companies.
Yep.
Like, what is it about us that we don't get calls back?
We're nobody.
And also,
In a market that no one knows about.
in the previous iteration of this, we're still waiting for a vacation to be over so someone get back to us about the same thing, but a different part of it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, how do people run businesses? What do you have to do?
I don't know.
These are serious inquiries that we have,
Uh-huh. Business.
and we can't get a call back.
Nope.
It's so weird.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't imagine. There are people we don't call back when we get
Oh, for sure. Oh, my God.
when we get unsolicited sales calls.
Uh-huh.
It's always sales and marketing. I got a call the other day from a woman looking for me because she'd sent me some information. She wanted to follow up on it. It's like, I didn't call you back because I have no interest in hiring you to do our mass mailing marketing business.
I guess the difference is that the phone calls we're making are, we want to give you money.
Yeah.
And this is someone not calling back.
Here's this
When
thing
get
we're
emails-
interested in that you do.
Yeah.
How can we get you to do it for us?
When people email us to say, I'd like to buy stuff, we absolutely get back to them.
Yeah.
Yes, we want to find a way to make that purchase happen.
Yeah.
Sure.
But when people email us out of the blue, or even when people are like, hey, here's my collection, do you want it? We still at least say, no, we don't buy.
Right. The stuff we don't get back to is the marketing style emails of it's, hey, hire me to do this thing. Hey, pay me to do this thing. Hey, give me money for this thing. Hey, donate product to this thing. It's a lot of like, I don't want to do any of that. And it's, I didn't ask for this email to happen, so I'm not going to be taking my time to send you a response.
Yeah, I told Dal the story today of I got a solicitor phone call on my cell phone, so I didn't answer it. Then they call right back. So I'm like, maybe this isn't a solicitor. And I answered, but there was a pause, and you could hear a lot of voices in the background, like a call center. And then there was somebody who started talking that had a heavy accent. So I just hung up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out it was my eye doctor calling to confirm my appointment for next week. And when they couldn't get a hold of me, they wound up calling my brother, who I assume was my emergency contact, which is how they got his number. So he had to call me and say, did you hang up on your doctor? Like, I did. How do you know? Because they called and told on me.
Uh-huh. One of the things that helps us at the store when it comes to cold calls and solicitor calls, those automated ones, is that they're looking for specific syllables to start the recording. Like, they don't just start playing as soon as the line's picked up. They're waiting to hear the word hello, or something close to it.
Yeah.
So, since we don't answer hello at the store, we answer challengers, this is Dal, or Challengers, this is Patrick, or Challengers Comics and Conversation, we don't say hello.
Right.
There's usually this very, very long silence. And usually, in the past, I would say hello, and that would kick off the recording, and it would start to go. Now, if there's silence, I wait a few seconds, just to make sure it's not like a bad connection or someone on their cell phone, and then I hang up. So I don't have to hear these solicitor calls nearly as often anymore.
I like to wait long enough that they hang up, also not saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. We just heard a funny story of Lizzie Challenger, who was, long story short, on vacation at Disney and is getting so many solicitor calls on her cell phone. She decided for that week she was going to answer them all and just start swearing at them. And so she did, and then she got very nicely chastised by a Disney employee for using the F-bomb in the park.
A cast member.
Yes. I don't know. Cast member is like, I don't know.
That is the official term.
No, I know, but I mean, like, every store seems to have a different way to describe their people.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, like, for us, we switch between coworkers, colleagues, volunteers, employees. Like, employees sound so mercenary. But at the same way, it's like bag, sack, satchel, clasping device. I don't know. It doesn't matter. We know what they are. But yeah, it's been very exciting not having people have to sign for credit cards. And I know saying, but yeah, in front of it sounds like we talked about it before on this episode, which we didn't.
Nope.
It's just a thing that makes me happy, not having to sign.
It is.
And I think in a week or two I'll stop saying, like, and you don't have to sign anymore, because people have heard it long enough.
Yeah.
I'll just wait for people to say, do I have to sign? Like, nope, not anymore. Well, I'm sure next week will be a big week with news and stuff. We may have to delay a few days just to
get more news under the belt. Probably
something. I don't know. We'll wait and see.
Maybe a Saturday night record
or something. Who knows? I already have. That's my last weekend out for a little while, so
it's true.
Things are already starting to fill up socially. So I have that, but you have us, and we thank you for having listened to Contest of Challengers, a comics industry podcast on the Yak Channel Podcast Network in Chicago. I have been Patrick Brower.
And I've been W. Dale Bush.
Thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.